Hi, it's Jen. Today I want to share with you a project that I did the other night, but before I do that, I want to welcome any new subscribers that we have. We hit 100 on this channel, and that is a blessing, and I thank each and every one of you for being here and supporting this channel. I thank also the subscribers that have been here since the beginning, and I do appreciate you, and I appreciate you watching. And if you have any questions or suggestions or comments, I would appreciate if you leave them down below, and let's go on to our project. So I've been watching a lot of people make charms out of paper clips, and it looks like so much fun. So last night I decided to go down to my craft space and see if I could whip some up. Well, then I noticed that I didn't have any more of my rusted paper clips, and they don't need to be rusted, but that's what I wanted for the project that I've been working on. So I saw my jar of rusted safety pins, and so I thought, I bet you those would work the same way as the paper clips. And so I made one up. This was my first one. And what I did is I did the exact same thing as the other ladies have been doing with the paper clips. And so I wrapped lace all around the middle. And how I attach the material and lace on these, even if you do push on the opening, it won't harm anything because it's so taut that it's fine. And then I did put charms on the end of it, just like you would if you're using a paper clip. And then up at the top here, you can use a jump ring or a tailor pin or bulb pin, however you like to say that one. I always call them tailor pins. Anyway, so that was my first attempt, and then I wrapped the middle with some yarn that I had. And I liked it, but as I was creating this, I thought, what if I did the same thing on the safety pin on one side and not just in the middle? So I did this, and I made two up here. So I wrapped material all around the back of the pin, the back of the safety pin here. So that way I can use it to put in material or lace in our junk journals. Well, I didn't really like this one, and the reason is it just got way too thick because I have material, then I had lace, and then I had jute. And so it just got way too thick, and I know I could do probably a little bit thinner on the material and on the lace, but so I thought I would try doing it where I just did material. And so I wrapped the safety pins just on the back side of the safety pin, just with the material. I didn't add any of the lace or any of the material. And I really liked how these turned out, for the simple reason being is they look very rustic. And so when I don't know if you can see this, but because I ripped the fabric, there's frayed edges. And so because there's frayed edges, it just brings that hint of it being for the junk journal. And I came up with a sample of how we can use them. When you do little clusters like with lace, material, and even paper, we can attach these into our junk journals, just holding these pieces. Now, before I get going on any further, I do want to say, have a little disclaimer that I haven't seen anybody do this before, and so if somebody has, I apologize. I'm not trying to take credit. It's just something that I was playing with in my craft space, and so if somebody else has done this, I haven't seen it. And so I don't know if any of you have done this where you've created something and you thought you invented it, and then it was created already. So I don't know if that's the case here, but if it is, I haven't seen it. So anyway, moving on. So to be honest, I really like this one. I like just the simpleness of it and the rustic look of it because you get to see the rusted safety pin as well. So I really like this one. So I think I'm going to be making a lot of these for my books. Well then, after making these, I thought, well, what if I make one putting something on both sides? And this is the one I came up with. So here's the charm part. So on one side I put seed beads, and on the other side I wrapped material. And then on the end I put all my charms. And then if I wanted to attach this to wherever in my junk journals, I can use a tailor pin, or you can even put a jump ring here and attach it that way. And I made a quick tag. It's not that fancy of a tag, but I just wanted to make one just so you could see what it would look like on our tag. And so here we go. And this one I did attach it with the bulb pin here. I really liked how these turned out. I think it looks really pretty. And then I made another one. Now, the reason why I made another one was the very first one I made, this one, is I put the seed beads on the part of the safety pin that opens. Now, they haven't fallen out yet, but what I did was the last few seed beads I glued on using my glossy accents. So that way they wouldn't fall off if that happens to open. That way they won't fall off. So that, I was thinking about it, and I didn't want that to happen, that if it did open, seed beads go everywhere, especially if you're going to be selling these items on Etsy. So I thought, what if I try to get the seed beads to go on the back side of the safety pin? And I love this because then you don't have to worry about anything falling off, because that could be annoying. And then I wrapped the material on the open side. And how I did that was, I'm just going to show you here quickly. I'm going to get a safety pin. Guess I could keep it closed. All I did is I took my paper piercer. I went down to where the coils are. I stuck my paper piercer down in, wedged in between, and I spread it open. And I did it on both sides, because you want to spread it open so that way you can get the seed beads. Now I don't know if you're catching this. I'll try to lift it up so you can see how they're separated. And so now all I have to do is get my seed beads and then just wrap them around. And with me, I didn't have any problem getting them on. And if you're having trouble getting your seed beads to go over, that means you just need to separate your coils a little bit more. And then once you're done with getting your seed beads on your safety pin, I just took my pliers here and I squeezed the coils down. And that was that. And just because of the seed beads are so tiny, when you squeeze it shut, they won't move. And there we go. And then it's closed. And when I use seed beads, I only have black seed beads right now. And so what I'm going to do is anytime I use seed beads, I'm going to do this just because it takes a little bit more time. But then if you do it this way, I know it's secure. So that was really fun. And you're going to notice too, on my safety pins, that some are made with the closure at the top or at the bottom. And the reason why I had to do that sometimes is because sometimes the closure opening at the top right here, there's not enough room to get jump rings to put all your charms in. So this one was too small and I couldn't get my charms in, and as well as this one, as you can see up here. But I think it looks good both ways. So I'm just going to take it as it comes, and if I can use it one way, that's great, and then if not, I can just switch it around. So I really liked how this one turned out. And then what I did is I made a really small one. Move these up here. I'll get rid of this. I made a really tiny one, and I did the same process. Was it this one? Yep. I did the same process of opening up the coils to get the seed beads on the back and then the material on the front. Now my thought with the small ones, you can use these any way you like, but I know when people are making their paper clip charms, sometimes I see them hang a safety pin down. Well, this would be great hanging down from it because it's all decorated even. It just depends how what the style that you're trying to go for. And so I thought that would be kind of fun. But one of the ways that I want to use them in my journal, I'm just going to go get a sample journal that I have, is I'm going to use them as charms. So I hope this isn't going to take up too much of the camera shot. So I'm just going to slowly bring in my book. And so what I did is I put a jump ring on the end, and then I attached it to the paper clip. Now you're going to want to do that with the safety pin, because if you just attach it on the bottom where the coils are to the paper clip, you're not going to have any give or movement. So I just put a tiny jump ring, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it, and then now you have a nice charm in your book. So I'm going to make a bunch of those up as well, just to have in a little bucket, just so that way, depending on what book I make, I have one readily available. Well, then after I made these ones, I loved them so much that I wanted to keep going. And so the next one I made was, I'm just fixing the charms here. It was one just using jute and tea-dyed fabric, muslin. And so with this one, all I did was, and it doesn't really matter what side you put, like what material you put where, if you're going to be doing it this way. You could even wrap things with ribbon. You can wrap it with lace. The sky's the limit. It's just whatever you want to do. So the jute I put on the opening side, and I'm going to show you this at the end of the video, how I attached my jute, just so that way it's tidy and clean. And I like this little knot at the top. And I tried it a few different ways, and I found that this has worked the best for me because it's really tight, and even if this opens, it's not going to unravel. So I really like that. And again, I had to use this side. I could use this side for my charms. I really liked how this one turned out as well. And I did make a small one for that as well, to go and be used as a paper clip. And you can attach it anywhere in our junk journals. And the small ones are really flat, so that way you can put just anywhere in our journals. And you can add charms to this. You can just deck these all out. I wanted to keep mine quite simple, just for some projects that I'm working on. So that's why mine are the way they are. But you can just add as many as you like. Now the next one that I did has to be, like, I love them all. It's just so fun because once you start creating, you just get so many ideas, and then it's just like, oh, I can just do this, this, and this. So the next one I did was this one. And so what I did with this is I just attached some fabric like all the rest, and then with the opening of the safety pin, the open end, I just threaded through a piece of cross stitch. And I did attach it to a paper clip, and you could use this for if you're attaching something big in your journal. And I think that looks so pretty dangling down. And then I thought, well, you could even add charms to this as well. And you can add a bee at the top there. I think that would look really sweet there. And so I thought it was so fun to do. And so I thought I would make one here with you today, just so that way I could show you how I attach mine, and just to give you an idea if you've never made them before. And if you already have your way of making this type of thing, I appreciate you watching so much. So I think the one that I'm going to do is I'm going to attach jute, because I wanted to share with you how I tied it. And then I'm just going to add material. Just like this one. I want to make another one of these. So what I did, now my pieces of fabric, they are, I believe, a 1/2 inch. I'm going to get my ruler, because I know I did some and they were a 1/4 inch. Like for the smaller ones, I know my fabric was a 1/4 inch. Let me just see. It's 3/8 of an inch. This one. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on the back side right here. And I'm going to put it through here. And there's going to be a little opening, a little piece of material up here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue it right down. So you want to make sure you have a little bit of fabric to wrap around your needle here and then glue it. But you don't want too much, because if you do too much, it will just be bumpy. So I'm going to use Glossy Accents here. I don't have any fabric tack at the moment, but if you have fabric tack glue, I would suggest using it, because that glue dries a whole lot faster than this glue does, Glossy Accents. But I'm just going to use what I have. Just put a little bit of glue, and then I'm just going to hold it there for a moment, just to get it. Oops, that's kind of high on there. There we go. So I'm curious, have you guys been making those paper clip charms as well? And if you have, are you enjoying them? Making a whole bunch of them? I know these were so fun that once I started going, I couldn't stop. And then I keep on thinking about it. It's like, what could I add to it? And then now what I'm going to do, it's not quite totally dry yet, but I'm going to press on. And then all I do is I take my thumbnail, just press it down, and then I'm going to just wrap the material all the way up. How tight, like I try to do mine a little tighter. How you overlap, because what I'm doing is I'm overlapping. As I'm bringing up the material, I'm overlapping the last piece of material I'm laying down. I'm only leaving a little space open. So I'm overlapping. What I have been doing, so I got to the top, I put 2 layers down. So what I do is I go one more time, and then I go back down. I find that one thickness isn't enough, really. I hope I'm in the camera. That wouldn't be too good. Okay. And then you just wind all the way down until you get to the bottom again. Now you're going to want to end it like you started it. You want to take your glue, Glossy Accents or what have you, and you want to put glue just down across the material. You want to make sure you go all the way down to the width of your material, so that way it's all glued down, and then I just wrap it over and just bring it down again just to make sure, and then I just hold it there just for a minute just because I want it to hold really well. And then I just take my scissors and then I just cut off any excess fabric. And I don't mind that the end where I cut is frayed. I kind of like to help it along. And then I just hold it there for a minute just to make sure that it's going to be stuck down. And when you get that step done, sometimes you might think it doesn't look just right, but I would encourage you just to wait until you are thoroughly done the whole pin before you touch it again, because once you start adding different elements, everything starts to work together. So we're going to start doing this side of the pin. We're going to do the jute. And so all I do is I make sure I leave a tail. I start at the very bottom of the pin where the coils are located. I leave myself a tail, and then I'm just going to wrap around the pin. And then after I wrap a bit, I just push it down. I am wrapping tight because you don't want this to be loose at all, because I know everyone who works with twine, you know that it can get loosened and then it just starts unraveling, so you want to hold on to everything quite tightly. And I go all the way up, and I do leave a little bit of a space just so that way it can go into the closure. And then once I got to the point where I want to stop, then I start winding back down again, down to the bottom toward the coils. And I do that way if I miss any spots of the pin wrapping around, I will be sure to finish it off as I go back down again. And then again, I don't like the look of just the one width, and you may even like doing even more than two rounds of the jute. You might want to do 3 or 4. And then once you get all the way down to the end, you can cut your, I'm going to cut mine so I don't have lots to work with. And then I'm going to keep on winding because I need to go all the way right down to the coils. Alright, so my camera did shut off. So I'm just continuing. And so you just wrap all the way down to the back to the end, and then you're just going to tie it off. And then that way you only have one knot and not quite a few. So this is really piddly, so hopefully I can do this here. Now, just a little tip. Now, I've been using jute in my projects for a while, and I always find some of this stuff really thick. And so how I get this thin twine is I was at the thrift store one day, and I came across, what is it? It's burlap that was to wrap around trees in the summer. Well, not the summer, the winter. And just to protect them from salt and whatnot. And they were selling, there was 2 rolls of it, and they were big rolls, really cheap. And I picked them up because it was only, I think, $3 or $4 just for all of that. And I'm like, yes, please. So I picked them up, and then when I raveled them, I started pulling out the jute, and it's the perfect size for crafting, because the other jute, I like it too, the thicker stuff, that stuff is nice for its purpose, but I always find, see how thick? This is the stuff you can get at the dollar store or whatnot, but this stuff is quite thin. Actually, I'll show you. I got my bag out today, and of that jute, of that burlap, and I ripped off a whole bunch again. And so, yeah, and it's gonna last me a long time. I use a lot of this in my journals, and you know what? This is so much cheaper to get than buying the rolls of it. So if you happen to go to a thrift store and you see those bags of burlap to wrap trees, pick them up, because you'll be able to have jute for a while. And then if you have any shares or giveaways, you can always roll some of this up nicely to share with other crafters. So I just want to mention that quick tip. That's why my natural jute is so thin. So I'm just going to cut this, because I do want a little bit of tails. I don't want it too close. I think it looks really good with those. Okay, and there we go. And that is what I'm going to do. And so that's how I put mine together. And when I think I already said it to you, but when I did this one and I added the material, I just went in this side and came out the other, and that's it. You can do this with ribbon, you can do it with lace. The sky's the limit. Whatever materials you want to use, that'd be great. Well, that's what I wanted to share with you today. Let's look at our safety pins a little bit differently. Just like we look at our paper clips differently, we can do the same thing with our safety pins. So I wanted just to come on here and share with you, if you don't have paper clips, but if you do have safety pins, you can use those instead. And if I haven't shown how to do something, and if you're curious about something that I've done, please leave a comment down below. I would love to answer any questions that you may have on this. And that is all for today. I hope you guys have a great day, and don't forget, let's not throw away our junk. Let's journal with it. Take care.